Come on, everybody get set, let's go. It's the next episode. It's the Premium Pete Show. News, interviews, all of the info. Listen up, it's the Premium Pete Show. If you want the scoop in the low, down low, listen to the show, cause Milk said so. Fuck what you heard, better act like you know. It's the Premium Pete Show.
Internets, welcome back to another episode of the Premium Pete Show. Sitting here with my friend, somebody that I've been trying to get on for a long time. Let me tell you something. I had to go through assistance, emails. I had to send a smoke signal. I had to visit the building a couple of times. But finally, my friend Rich Antoniello, not only the CEO of Complex, okay, or we say founder, and give me the right titles.
You know, I don't worry about that shit, but, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you know, founder and CEO of Complex, now Complex Networks.
Mm-hmm. Why the change to networks?
Well, we've been lucky enough to exit sell our business, and put ourselves in a situation where we now are funded to take it to a massive next level by two corporate giants. We got bought. It's actually, what's funny is, we're sitting here. It's a year to the day where we closed our deal.
Really?
Anniversary, first year anniversary.
You know what?
Verizon and Hearst.
I didn't even want to start with the deal, but again, like I said, and anybody who listens,
How can you not?
No, exactly. We bounce around, so
It's all good.
So right
Tangents,
off the bat,
Pete? Come on.
Of course, right off the bat, Verizon. How does that even happen? How long was that in the making?
Well, you know, you got to remember. First of all, you know what we were 15 years in the making to begin with, right? And Hearst made a very smart investment in us in September of 2015. It was a small investment. Sorry, I sound like a dick. It was $21 million.
Thank you.
Put in our
Thank
business.
you for not sounding like a dick.
But by the way, I will just sound like a dick consistently because I'm an asshole. So I apologize for that.
Hey, listen, you cleared it up and spoke what it was.
Yeah, well, on a relative basis, it was small for us, but that's big for a lot of people,
sure.
Right? We've been lucky enough to build a very nice business, very effective business, and Hearst put some money in us in September of 2015, and I think as they started to realize, they started to peel back the layers and really get to know our business. They saw how good we were, how the quality of the content we were making, the engagement that we had with our audience, the differentiation of that content, both in topic and tone, and even more so, the way we can monetize the shit out of our audience. And they were like, wow, not only do you guys have a massive scale and great audience, but you're able to make this work from a business perspective. And we all know these digital players, you know, not a lot of them make any money.
Sure.
And when Hearst realized that and they really dug in on the business, they put the money in, and then we started having conversations on a large scale strategic basis. And Verizon is a tremendous company, by the way. You know, much bigger than most people think. And, you know, whether it's Fios or 5G or
sure.
Go90 and the future of OTT, Verizon is going all in.
Sure.
And, you know, what I liked very much about not only the assets and the resources and the capital that they had, was the big thing is that they believed and they wanted to put content at that tip of the spear, not technology. And it was a fantastic opportunity for us.
Now, you say that they saw, you know, the progress and they're like, holy shit, this is amazing what you guys are doing. How many
Get on
people,
the train early. How
How many people have seen that? Like, meaning, like, did they have people come into the office and checking this out, or just reports, or like, was it a lot of people?
All right, let's put it this way.
Okay.
We were. I was not actively looking to sell the business. We were having some very large commercial conversations with some international players, some international cable players, some very large domestic media brands, and some very large strategic players, all commercial conversations, just like, well, how can we partner, right? Mm-hmm. Making it simple. And as people started looking at our business and realizing how strong we were, that's when those commercial conversations started turning into acquisition conversations. And we had multiple offers for the business. It's nice to have sitting on a whole bunch of term sheets, right?
Forget about it.
It's fun, man, right? And, you know, there's not a lot of, you know, media is a 24/7 business, and it's tough and it's competitive. But to be in a situation where you have a lot of people that want to be a part of you, and want you to be a part of them. It's great validation. It was the greatest situation to be in. And then we were able to make a very smart, strategic choice to go with, I always say it wasn't an exit for us. It was a financial exit. Like we paid our investors back a nice sum. The management team made a lot of money.
Forget about it.
It was nice.
Is that why Noah has all this good wine he's posted on Instagram and steaks?
Noah's getting there.
Okay.
That's I'm dragging him along on that front. You got to
what-
remember, Noah's wife is worth a lot of money too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Listen, they're a great couple. That's why I had him on the Father's Day episode. He's a young father. I like him.
And by the way, two of the most quality people you're ever going to meet in your life.
You mean him and his wife?
Yeah.
It's funny how people meet, right? And how come together, right?
It's amazing.
But more importantly, you talk about Verizon coming in, buying Complex.
Verizon and Hearst.
Buying Complex for $300 million, right? Is that right?
I cannot confirm the number.
Okay, I'm going to say $300 million.
Sure.
Okay? Keep in mind, what I want to know is how did that even, and let's back up, how did that even, did you get an email? Did someone fucking knock on your door? How does that even happen?
I'm good. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
But no. It's you create, we've been pounding away at creating the real cultural voice for the next generation. Like, who's going to create the best amount of content? Not some bullshit like fucking optics crap where you're like, oh, I got the most fucking Facebook follower and all this crap. I mean, what we really did is we were creating best-in-class content and dominating the conversation on social, dominating the conversation on our own platform. It's not just amplifying a conversation, it's starting it. Sure. And a lot of people started to realize that verticalized media and the differentiated topics, you look at the ratings of NFL, you look at the ratings of NBA, you look at the ratings of baseball. I mean, dude, people 18 to 24 are not watching this stuff. And what are they doing? They're consuming sneaker content. They're consuming hip-hop content. They're consuming art and design content. It's all these verticals that we really aligned ourselves with at the origination of what we were doing. And I think you had a lot of people go, all right, if we're going to make a bet and really put significant amount of money, whatever that number is, into something, we want it to really mean something to the end consumer. And Hearst really was the first. Like I said, Hearst came in, put an investment in us without Verizon.
Yeah, $21 million.
Without Verizon. And there's a guy named Neeraj Kemplani who runs their kind of strategic partnerships.
Shouts to him.
He's the best, man. And Steve Schwartz is the CEO of Hearst. Really kind of latched on and liked the way we run our business and liked how different the audience was and liked how different the money we got was and how we made that work. And, literally they went to Verizon and were like, look, this is the future. This is the way. This is the type of content. This is the type of media company, and this is the way this is where we want to put our money and make bets.
How long did that take to close a deal like that?
A long time.
3 years?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, look, Hearst put the money in September of 2015. We had a term sheet in January of 2016. And then the deal closed in July of 2016.
What was the first thing you did when you closed that deal?
When the money hit my wire?
The money hit your wire.
Right. Well, I was out east at my house out in the North Fork, and I opened a very, very nice bottle of wine. It's called Screaming Eagle. I don't know if you've ever had it.
Okay.
It's that's where, I love Noah to death. This is Noah's drinking fucking, red and white tablecloth Italian in comparison to Screaming Eagle. And I can say that. I love that. No, it's Screaming Eagle is a cult wine out of Napa. We have
How much
1996, $3,800.
Oh, fuck.
So we were having some fun, and we had a good time.
Reason why I say that for is because, keep in mind, so many people would die to be an opportunity to close a deal like that. So many people don't even, you could sit here and say maybe later on, damn, Pete, I didn't even celebrate that. Some people don't celebrate their victories well because they're still focusing on more.
Well, I will tell you this. It's funny. I'm drinking with my wife. We're sitting down having that wine. And she's like, oh, what are we going to go buy? What are we going to do? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, babe, I'm celebrating now. I'm going back to work tomorrow, and we're going to make this $1 billion company. And she's just like, you have a mental problem, right? Like, and I said to her, I'm like, I'm really sorry, babe. I'm like, I got news for you. We're not sitting here having this fucking bottle of wine and celebrating this if I wasn't a sick fuck.
Sure. So you think, so right off the bat then, do you have to be crazy to be creative?
You have to be. No, you don't have to be crazy to be creative.
Crazy to be successful?
You have to be crazy to build a company.
In what
Building
sense?
a company and being successful are two different things. There's a lot. You could be successful as part of something bigger and somebody else. Like when you go and build something from nothing, right? You create a brand, and not just a brand that means something to people, but then also a business that's driving hundreds of millions of dollars. You have to be sick. You have to go all in. I mean, and I don't just mean time. I mean, you're stressed out. Everything is your responsibility. How do you stay in front of the marketplace? How do you mean something to people always? How do you get better every day? How do you get better on every platform that everybody is consuming your content on? You have to be nuts about it. And it's not easy.
They say people in your position that build an empire from scratch could lose it all in a day. Do you believe in that?
Yeah. You got to be willing to go. If you're not going that far, then you're not growing. And you got to keep putting it all in, right? You got to keep, it's like, you ever play, I have a gambling problem. So it's, you ever play Texas Hold'em?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Like being an entrepreneur is like, irrespective of the cards, going all in every fucking hand.
Yeah.
Before you even look.
Sometimes they say somebody who builds an empire from scratch will lose it all today, but could also build it back a year later. Do you even believe in that too?
Maybe bigger the next time. And, look, I look at myself, not to kind of move it a little bit, but where I came from and who I was and what I grew up with made it easy for me to bet, right? Because I didn't have that much to lose.
Sure. You grew up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, right?
Canarsie and Marine Park.
Okay. You grew up as a Brooklyn kid.
Yep.
Sitting here now today, did you ever think that you would be where you are today?
Not a chance. No way.
How did that fucking happen?
You know what? I didn't know what I wanted. All I knew is I didn't want to live the same life that I watched all my cousins and my father growing up with. And my father didn't want that for me either. My dad, no knock. My dad was a UPS guy and my mom's a stay-at-home mom. Sure. Right? And we had a really nice little life and had some great cousins around. Had a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
A lot of good food.
A lot of fun. And different, though. But, I will tell you, I remember my parents fighting about, can we pay an electric bill and shit like that. And, people used to ask me in high school, what do you want to do? And I would say, I don't know what I want to do yet. All I know is I want to have a boat on the goddamn weekend, and I don't want to worry about buying anything that I fucking want. That was my goal. It was that simple. I just didn't want that life.
So you went to high school.
Yep.
You finished high school. How did you stay out of trouble in Brooklyn at that age? Cause you get caught up so quick.
You know what? My dad was old school, right? Like recon in the Army. Shit out of you. Tough guy, right? Scared the living shit out of me. I mean, it took. My dad was 70 years old before I could beat him in an arm wrestling match. 70. Tough son of a bitch, right? Like old school Italian bricklayer.
Sure.
I'm not a small dude. My dad had me by 3 inches on each side, shoulder-wise.
Hey,
right?
Listen, I got to tell you this quick bricklayer story. My friend growing up, his father was a bricklayer. I'll never forget. His name was John.
Hands like fucking.
Their hands were crazy. His name was John. His wife was Shirley. I always been a jokester. I remember one time Shirley was laying down in the bed with him in the room. We were in the living room, and I said, "Hey, Shirley," and she says, "Hi, Pete." And I came in the, I says, "You want me to come in there and hang out with you?" And I was just playing. I didn't mean anything by it. Man, he came over, gave me a crack. Let me tell you something. My head went across the room, and my body stayed exactly where it was. That's how heavy his hands were.
Oh, and my dad was 5'6", man, tiny guy, height-wise, but just 5'6" height, and then 5'6" wide. And for me, my dad didn't let me go to my zoned high school. I was supposed to go to Madison.
Okay.
And he was like, "You're not going there. You're not going with your friends because your friends are going nowhere. So we're going someplace else." And he made me go to Midwood. Midwood was a special program. I did. I take tests well. I kind of lucked out.
How do you take tests well?
I just do well on tests.
Do you collect a lot of information quickly?
I have a good memory, and I understand why people ask questions. Right? If you understand, when somebody asks you a question, greatest thing in the world I can give from a business perspective, whether it's an interview or running a business or having a sales call or anything, somebody asks you a question, before you answer it, before you rush to answer it and sound smart, why are they asking you that question? If you can answer that in your head, you're going to give a better answer than just the answer that's right in front of your face, the obvious shit.
That's a fucking, you're better than a tarot card reader, man. I like that.
Well, I had no choice. I got to figure out how to win, man.
I'm going to find a question I could ask you, and then I'm going to have to know why I'm asking you it before this is over.
Don't worry.
I think I have one.
We'll have some fun with that.
With your father, I always speak about being in your kid's life and the relationship with your father. And I love my father. My father's a good man, but I always say he worked 3 jobs. I never seen him, so I never got a chance to really always, and to be honest with you, my father, and I'm sure you could, my mother, yes, but my father wasn't that guy who really grabbed you and said, I love you, kid. There wasn't a lot of love there, and I think because his father wasn't like that.
Not at all.
You wrote something, man, that on Father's Day that was dope to me. You wrote, don't judge your dad on what he did or didn't do for you. Judge him by whether or not he did everything he could do for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, wow, I'm trying not to get a little, look, my dad was a tough guy, old school, not very educated, and you know what's funny? He busted his ass being a UPS. He was a delivery guy at UPS. So he was lifting 70-pound packages all day, exhausted. No matter what, because all I want to do is go outside and play ball, right? No matter how tired he was, always go. Never say no, ever. And he couldn't do a lot for me. Couldn't help me in school. Couldn't help me in business. Couldn't tell me what to do. But you know what? He was always there for me. And it was kind of funny. My dad's probably helped me make some of the biggest decisions in my life. When I first went to Complex and took the job, I was like, I'm going all in on this job. I'm leaving a really cushy job. I used to run, I was running revenue in the East Coast for National Geographic Adventure
National
magazine.
Sales Director, right?
Right. And
we'll get to that.
It was awesome, man. It was great. It was a great job. I wasn't working that hard. I was making a lot of money. I was having a lot of fun. And I'm 30 years old, and somebody wants to hand me the keys to go build something, and I'm like, I'm gonna take it, and I started, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in for way more than I thought. This is way more challenging than I thought. I'm like, I think I'm gonna go ask Nat Geo for my job back, and my dad goes, he goes, no, you're not, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, no, you're not. He goes, you took a bet, and you think you're so smart. Step up to the goddamn plate and figure it out. You know what? This is your shot. Take it. And, I didn't have a choice. I'm 30 years old and I felt like I was 6.
Sure.
And, my dad's, again, not, he had no idea about business, no idea about media, but he was right. He set my head straight. And that was really important.
Again, a father's relationship with his son, and just a father's relationship with his kids is so important. And, looking forward and looking to see how you are with your kids. But I just want to touch on one more thing with your dad, because it really touched me when I read some of this. And, the importance of having a father in your life and how much it means. Before I even get to this, your father obviously was able to see some of your success.
Some of it, yep.
Were you able to do anything for him that really made you happy, as you got?
Yeah. My dad's a character, right? The first time I got a really big check, when people do give you funding, there's primary capital that goes to the business and there's secondary capital that goes to the founders, right? Mm-hmm. You get to take some money off the table. They call it taking money off the table. And a couple of years ago, I was able to take some money off the table. Not
under the table.
No, okay. It's real. It's all real.
I'm playing around.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Well, I've done that a long time ago. I haven't done that in a long time. We'll get into that at a different time. But my dad. I went and bought him a really nice watch, and my dad never had a new car in his life, and never had a watch that was probably more than. Other than there's a UPS watch that's probably on my Instagram if you look in there too that my wife refurbished for me, But he got that for 25 years of service, and he was very proud of that. But I went and got him a Rolex.
Okay, nice.
And he looked at me, and in true Tony Puma fashion, my father's name was Antoniello, Tony Antoniello, and I'll tell you the Tony Puma story because it's worth it. But my dad looks at me, and I'm so emotional. I just went and got him this very expensive watch, and I was like, Dad, you never had a new car, but I want you. I know you're not driving that much anymore, so I wanted you to have something that every time you look, and I say all this, and he looks at me and he goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I'm like, he goes, "I'm never gonna wear this shit." He goes, "I don't want to wear this crap." He was like, I'm like, "That's not who I am. Like, take this back now. Like, I'd rather have the cash. Like, and I'm like, oh,
You're like, there goes a good gesture.
You know what?
They're stuck in their ways, some of those.
Look, I didn't take it the wrong way. I laugh about it like it's funny. It's my dad. My dad was not a fancy guy, right? He wasn't fancy. He wasn't educated. He was a different type of guy. But I will tell you something. He literally, who I will be, irrespective of how much money I'm worth or ever have or what I'm able to accomplish, I'm never going to change because of who he was.
Yeah, that's respectable. Touching on Pops, you said when you wrote this, I remember seeing it and I was like, damn, man, I'm thankful, and I think anybody out there listening should be thankful for the times that you have with your father because, and vice versa. This could be for a girl with a mother or a girl with a father or whatever it is, but I'm speaking solely on this situation. When I read this, I was like, damn, man, I love my father, and I know he's getting old, and sometimes you don't know when, they're going to go, and you wrote this, you said, I wrote this 3.5 years ago when I lost my father. You wrote, he wasn't very educated, but he was crafty. He wasn't calm, he was passionate. He wasn't rich, but he was so generous. He wasn't classy, but he would always do everything the right way. No shortcuts or cheating ever. He was far from perfect, but he was the best man I have known. He was my soul, my inspiration. He was and always will be the reason the fire burns in me to win. I love you, Dad. I miss you terribly. And then you wrote, no excuses ever.
Ever.
And, the reason why I brought that up for is because,
You're just trying to break me down. You really are.
I'm not trying to break you down. The bond between a father and son is amazing.
It is.
And I'm glad that I've been able to live that with my dad later on in life.
Right.
And to be honest with you, when you wrote that, it made me, and this is what it should do for people. It should make them value in the time that they do have.
I was really lucky. My dad and I have probably really, really similar personalities. So when we got along great. But when we didn't, woof, it was bad, right? We played sports a lot together. We talked about Yankees all the time, right? Talked about Yankees all the time. Watched every game that was on together. Like I said, we didn't have a lot in common from the standpoint of what we were doing, but we're the same person.
But he was a hero.
There's a it's funny. There's a song on How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, the U2 album. That's you don't have to make it on your own. And there's a line where Bono has a very similar relationship with his father, right? Love-hate, right? And very similar personalities. And he has a line called, "You're the reason the opera is in me. You're the reason I sing." And it's literally, I listen to that song. It's so hard for me to listen to that song.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of my dad every time. And, I love that, though. I wouldn't want that superficial, I just love you, I'm always there. My dad challenged me.
Sure.
He pushed me. And, it was a great combination of carrot and stick. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that for anything. Like, I knew where I stood with him. I knew he loved me. I make a joke sometimes. I was like, I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, "Oh, so, what would you characterize your relationship with your father as?" And I said, it's really simple. I'm like, let me say this. Until I was about 16, I thought my name is, what are you, a fucking moron? Right? And, it's not quite the way parents have relationships with kids today. But, I knew he loved me, and he just wanted better, right? And he wasn't going to take his foot off the gas pedal. He was going to push me because I needed to be pushed.
Man, I hate to touch on such a touchy subject, and, it was great to share that about Pops, because I think that it's amazing to see a guy who became so successful as yourself to appreciate somebody that didn't even have the same goals or morals or values as you, and that's special because that's Dad, no matter what, that's Dad.
I am who I am 100% because of him. 100%.
But yeah, no, sometimes like we agree to disagree with Dad, but at the end of the day, like, that's our hero. Moving on, I don't want to keep on going on these touchy subjects.
It's all good.
We're gonna get you fucking. You're gonna get me choked up, to be honest.
It's all good.
Let's think about when someone like yourself, right? How did you even get the job with National Geographic?
I was really lucky. It's funny. I was. Let's go back a little bit, right?
Okay.
I came out of school, and I was lucky enough to get a job at Saatchi & Saatchi.
Okay.
At the time, biggest ad agency in the world. And
what were you doing there?
I was media planner on the Procter & Gamble account, their flagship. And I always joke, like, I don't have an MBA. But my MBA was my years at Saatchi, because I worked with some of the smartest people in the world. I had to present to all the people from Procter & Gamble all the time. And, I mean, you're talking Stanford, Wharton, Kellogg's, like, top of the tops. And, I'm 21, 22, 23 years old, and I'm presenting to some of the smartest people you've ever met who are pushing you to get better every single day. And it was trial by fire. And then I was lucky enough, I walked into an office one day interviewing for a job I had no business getting. It was for the New England director, the Northeast director of Men's Journal magazine. It was owned by Wenner Media, the Jan Wenner, who owns Rolling Stone, formerly Rolling Stone, Us Magazine, and Men's Journal. Now he's sold off Men's Journal and Us Magazine to American Media. And I walk in, and I was having a meeting with this guy, Chris Sachs, and this guy, Mark McDonald, walks in. And it's good. It's worth the story. Don't worry, just go with me for a second. And I'm 24 years old, and I know that doesn't sound old now, but nobody who was 24 was getting premium sales jobs back then. The whole staff is like 35 years old, and I'm some snot-nosed kid who doesn't know shit about shit. And I'm sitting in the waiting area. I'm a half hour early for my interview at 8 o'clock. It's 7:30, and this guy, Mark McDonald, walks in, and it's the publisher, right? I was supposed to talk to the ad director, and this is the top guy at Men's Journal magazine. And he goes, hey, what you doing? Who you waiting for? I'm like, Chris Sachs, I have an interview. He's like, I'm Mark. Why don't you come back and talk to me? And I'm like, oh, shit, this is not going to go well, right? And I hand him my resume back in the day when, people had paper resumes. And we start chatting, and he goes, listen, and Mark's like a big sports guy. You could just tell. I'm looking around his office. I see footballs and golf clubs and shit like that. He goes, listen, I'm looking at your resume. He goes, you've never sold anything. You're sitting on the media side. You have no experience. You're 24 years old. He goes, why are we even interviewing you for this job? I'm like, oh, great. Like, I got nowhere to go. But I'm figuring he put me in such a corner, I got nowhere to go but up. So I'm going to take a shot, right? And I go, listen, man, I'm like, I look at Men's Journal. You had a nice year last year, but you got Men's Health is eating your fucking crow. I'm like, you went like 9-7 and you made the playoffs, but you got knocked out in the first round. And you're looking at like your draft and you go, oh, I need an offensive lineman, and maybe that gets me to like 10-6. Or you get a really young superstar who's a dynasty player, and you go 12-4, and then you go 12-4 for the next 5 years, and you can win Super Bowls. And he goes, and he's looking, and I'm thinking, I just nailed this. And he goes, well, I know you can bullshit, but it still hasn't changed anything. You got nothing to go off of. And I ended up getting the job, and I had 4 years at Wenner Media, and it was amazing. And Chris Sachs, the guy I was talking about, who I was supposed to interview with, was my ad director, got the publisher job at National Geographic Adventure, and goes, come over here with me. And And what was beautiful is Chris always let me take on a lot more responsibility than my age and probably my capabilities. And he just believed in me, and he trusted me, and he thought I was a crazy dreamer and like a really ambitious kid. And I grew, and he let me spread my wings. He encouraged me every day to spread my wings.
How important is it to know people these days? Meaning, like, of course you have to, when like you could get in the door, but you still, how important is it relationships? Because obviously by knowing that guy, he was like, come over here, because you built a rapport with him.
You know, it's both more important and not.
Okay.
Let me say this. What was important was not knowing Chris. What was important was Chris knowing me enough to respect me, to pull me along and give me that shot. In this day and age, I think, you know, I look at it all the time. I'm like, we try and like really even the playing field, right? We don't just take resumes from top schools, even though we could. We try and hire on talent, and hire on ambition, and hire on like aggressive attitudes. I love people with chips on their shoulder.
Sure.
Right?
I heard you say that before plenty of times.
Sorry, I just
Well,
I
why?
like that.
Why?
Well, you know me, number one.
I know, but I'm asking you why for people
I
listening.
think, look, I think everything is really hard, and you know, really smart people who don't have a chip on their shoulder fold when the shit gets really hard, and shit's gonna get really hard every day. And if I'm not there to like hold you up, prop you up, or your boss isn't there, like I want you to prop yourself up. I want you to lean forward on every conversation. And you know, I'm sorry, but you don't teach that. You can't teach attitude. You can get all the skills and you can hone skills for people, but you know, somebody who is going to stick their nose in something, you don't teach that. And I'll take that every day and twice on Sunday.
I'll take that too. I understand what you're saying. Let's talk about people in Complex. Talk about hiring, right? Now you said that you're in this office. You don't have a big history. Complex has hired people that may have not had a big degree or a big history and took a shot on them, right?
Put lots of people on. That's big for me.
Yeah.
And you know, in this day and age, my viewpoint is very simple. Is, you know, we've built a company that looks and feels very different than any other media company that had been previous to us, right? We are a multi-platform play. We are different topics. There was no blueprint, right? Like we made our own blueprint. And it's why we have a show called The Blueprint, by the way.
But no, I like it.
Yeah, it's good. Did you watch the Bobby Hundreds episode?
Bro, that kid for a long time. And I wrote this. I wrote this to Noah on Twitter. I wrote that the thing about Bobby Hundreds is he's unselfish, you know,
and honest.
I remember him writing things on his blog. That's the type of kid that gives advice that you could take to become successful.
That's right.
You know, and there's not many people out there that, you know, that want to do that. There's a lot of people that hold on to shit.
That's right.
You know?
Well, there's a lot of people also who only tell you the good shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, good advice is great. Don't get me wrong. Positive advice is great. But, you know, what I love about Bobby is so real deal. So honest, right? And so honest about how ugly it is sometimes, too. And it's impressive.
Would be an amazing professor to teach entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back to what I was saying is like, look, if you're building a company that's doing stuff that nobody's ever done before, then your fucking resume doesn't mean dick to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not going to hire, there's nobody I can find who's done what we're doing. So I want to hire somebody with vision. I want to hire thought process. For me, everything is thought process. How do you think about things? How original are you? How do you push the envelope? How are you going to get your staff thinking differently? How are you going to sell an idea internally? How are you going to sell the consumer externally? And, you know, I just want new and different ideas and different perspectives. And they don't have to, I don't want somebody who just agrees with me at all.
That's a great question, because having people around, you know, especially a person in a big position, it's easier when you have somebody, not saying it's easy, I'm saying it's easy for people to just say like, yeah, Rich, you're right. Yeah. Oh yeah. People
don't worry, that
have
doesn't
people
happen
challenge.
that often.
Okay. See, and that's a great thing to know that people have challenged you, you know, and asked you different type of questions, just didn't agree with you. Because I really feel if you have yes people around you, you will never fully succeed. because they
you won't maximize the
Okay,
business.
there
You
we
will
go.
not max. You will succeed, but you will
maximize.
potentially.
Okay.
But you won't maximize your opportunity, right? And also, how is it in this day and age with how much content you have to put out and how many conversations you have to have and how many layers and how many wins you need? You know, you can't do it alone, right? It can't be only your vision. It's got to be, you got to have a lot of people contributing all the time. And, you know,
Like a team. You're talking
it's
about
a
from
lot more fun. Like, you know, also, I don't want to be alone in a foxhole.
Sure.
I want teammates,
Sure.
right? And that's big.
Sure. You know, you sit and you talk about Complex, you know, and how big it's be able to create its own blueprint. Who have or who do, I know you don't, maybe you don't want to mention, but who do you even consider competition? I mean, I ask that because it's like, who do you like?
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of, we compete with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, right? I mean, from a scale perspective, we're competing with ESPN and MTV. From a content development perspective, even though, you know, they're more news and older now, but like Vice, you know, we'll compete with them. We'll compete with, when it comes to virality and the way we own social, like we're better than all those companies I just mentioned, and we're up against BuzzFeed on that side, right? So it's all of the above. I mean, the big thing that like, but we don't look at it that way, right? Like we really don't. Like it's like if we measure ourselves just based on relative, right? Like just the competitors out there, I think you set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to win on a relative basis. I want to win and maximize us to the greatest degree possible. And, you know, I want to make sure that we're producing the best content we can and have the biggest audience we can and drive the most revenue we can. And if that's 5 times what somebody else does, then it better be 5 times what somebody else does. I don't want to set a bar and fall over it.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, competition, you know, it's good for you to hear that because I feel like, you know, it's sometimes people focus too much on like other people, and I like the way you put that.
Well, you're
like,
chasing.
Yeah.
You're chasing. Like we don't chase.
Creating your own blueprint.
That's right.
Doing your own things. You know, back to just like, say if someone, you know, who you know, is a reader of Complex, a fan of Complex, wants to, you know, be at Complex, wants to be an entrepreneur, wants to do anything. You know, you spoke about failure before. What are some of your failures that you would be able to give advice to people? I mean, I'm sure there's so many.
It's a long list, man.
But what's some things?
You know what you know what I say? I make more decisions every day, and I make more mistakes and fail more every day than most people make decisions.
Is that a good thing? Is it a good?
I think yeah. I mean, for what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to go into uncharted territory. You know, big mistake I made when we first went into video. I thought we had such a big network. We had so many sites. We had control over all these people. Like, we don't need YouTube.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
you didn't want to put. I remember when we did the Combat Jack show.
Like, we don't need them. I don't want somebody taking 45% of my revenue right off the top. No way. Biggest mistake I ever made. Like, if you're going to do online video and you do not have a partnership with YouTube and you don't have that size of an audience and that amount of discovery of that content, you will not maximize your business. And biggest mistake I made at Complex, there's multiples. A lot of people that were partner sites in our network that we should have bought, like real talented people. I won't say who those people are, but
well, you bought Soul Collector.
Bought Soul Collector.
Why'd you buy Soul Collector?
We bought Pigeons and Planes.
Pigeon Plane, that was good. Why'd you buy Soul Collector? I remember Steve.
We bought it at the right time.
Okay.
You know, we're all about owning vertical voices and starting the best conversations in the world. And my viewpoint is we needed, if you're going to go and have 5 or 6 verticals, right? You're going to have sneakers, you're going to have music, you're going to have art, you're going to have design, you're going to have sports, and you're going to have life or pop culture. How can we not have a significant stake, either the biggest or the best website, ideally both, within each of those on an owned and operated basis, right? And in sneakers, we had Complex Sneakers as a channel, but we didn't have a site.
Sure.
And I met Steve Mulholland, and we had an opportunity to cut a deal and make Soul Collector Complex. Sure. And, you know, Steve's done very well because we did a deal that was a little bit of cash and some equity. So
took a little equity.
Took a little equity. He rolled the dice on us, and I'm sure Steve can go buy a bigger boat now.
Hey, listen, equity is patience, I feel like. You got to have patience.
No, equity is confidence.
Okay, there you go. Look at that, confidence.
Equity is not patience.
He's
it's
fixing all
confidence.
my fucking words tonight.
Well, welcome to our normal conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. You helped me
Love
out
you.
here. Even when you talk about the failures, right? And you say like, hey, YouTube this, but what about just like personal entrepreneurial failures? What is something that you could give people that
there's so many. So many mistakes. The first time I raised capital in 2009, we did it without a banker, and I didn't know what to look for in contracts, and we ended up okay. I trusted my gut, but man, I could have raised a lot more money at a lot higher valuation and given up less of the company. And knowing what I know now, it's amazing how JV I was, right? Total JV. And, I was ecstatic, and we were under duress. We needed the capital at that point from a working capital perspective. But it was a big mistake. There's lots. We lucked out because we got the right partners.
Sure.
So when you get the right partners,
you talk about now.
Well, we had the right venture capital partners. That was 2009, right? In November of 2009, we took on our first investment round and spun out of Echo because Echo Unlimited was running out of capital, and Streetwear was hurting.
So you guys almost called it quits at that time.
It was close. It was close. It was really close.
I need to take it back for 1 second, just so people could understand. Because it's like, here you are, the founder and CEO of Complex. Some people, when they think of Complex, they think of Mark Echo.
Yeah.
Right? So
great partner.
So Mark, how did that even happen? So Mark owned the magazine. He owned the clothing line, right?
Right.
What
Mark
did he do?
and Seth and Marcy.
Okay.
The three.
And then they brought you in? Like, where the fuck did you come out of?
They were going to launch the magazine, right?
Okay.
They had launched the magazine, the first issue. And, they just didn't know it took them almost 2 years to launch the magazine. And they didn't know media. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know content. They didn't know sales. And I loved the concept. For me, I had all this traditional experience, Saatchi & Saatchi,
Sure.
Nat Geo, Winter Media. And, but I'm still a kid from Brooklyn who loved hip hop and loved sneakers. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, there's this great magazine with Uncle Junior and Nas on the cover and Rosario Dawson on the other side. And it had this great promise. To me, it was very clear what they were trying to do, but the magazine was a mess. And I met Seth first. And, and I was like, and my conversation with him was, oh my God, I love the concept, but let me tell you everything you did wrong. And I just sat there for an hour and a half and ripped it apart.
Did they look at you like, or they respected where you come from?
I respected it. And that's when it was like, all right, we'll fix it.
And that's when they offered you the position. But here's the thing. What you began to do, is that what they offered you? Because they didn't have Complex. So for those who know or may not know, Complex also it's called Complex Networks, but they also have where they house, say, 80 or sites or.
Well, they didn't have any of that,
yeah.
right?
So how did that happen?
It was a magazine. It was 13 employees, and this was 2003, and I came in January of 2003, and we broke even in the magazine in 3.5 years. So at the end of 2006. I go to Mark and Seth and Dick Thrush, who was the CFO, and I said, listen, good news, bad news. Good news is we broke even with the magazine. Bad news is I'm not going to start paying you back. Every penny of profits in 2007, and I was forecast to do about $1.5 million, $2 million in profits. We're going to take that and we're going to spin that into digital. We're going to go hardcore into digital. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, but we're going to do it special. We're not going to just spend all the money on Complex.com. We're going to organize all of the verticalized conversations that are out there. We're going to take Nice Kicks and Kicks on Fire and Sneaker News, and we're going to roll that up. And we're going to take Now Right and On Smash and Hip Hop DX, and we're going to roll that up. And we're going to go and we're going to take the best sites across the board, right? And nobody had done that. nobody had really put all of not just the verticals together, but now cross-pollination oriented stuff, things that made a lot of sense. The audience was all interested in all those topics. And I'm like, look, we'll go best voices in class. We'll roll all this up. We're going to have a ton of scale to go talk to the advertisers. And now, when you go to each of those sites, you'll see little complex logos, right? And it was like a fam. We created the first collective of all these great vertical voices. And it was the best combination of like real business acumen combined with the cultural palate.
And gave these people who were just blogging a chance to make some big money.
We made some huge money. I mean, we made a lot of money for a lot of people.
Who were some of the big winners over there? Nice Kicks made a lot of money. I know that for sure.
Made Matt a lot of money at Nice Kicks.
He was one of the first sneaker sites to get on there.
He was one of our launch partners.
Yeah.
And, still a friend today.
Sure.
And Vlad. Made a lot of money for Vlad.
He's still with you, Vlad?
Yeah, he is. And
what do you mean?
I like Vlad.
Yeah.
Everybody can talk crap.
I don't have nothing against him.
He's a hustler.
I don't have nothing against him.
And
one thing I do have against him.
We made a lot of money for SK.
I do. Oh, not right.
Yeah.
Shouts are not right. Listen, one thing I do have against Vlad. When he came on to LSN, friends of myself, I DM'd him. And he knew who I was. I knew who he was. And I wrote like, yo, would love to have... No, he did a podcast. He has a Vlad TV podcast. Yes. And I said, yo, I would love to have you come sit down and promote the podcast. And you know what he fucking told me? He doesn't do interviews. Get the fuck out of here. Yo, Vlad, I like you.
By the way, he doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
FYI, he doesn't.
Vlad, I like you, but let me tell you something.
He doesn't do interviews.
I was going to have Borscht here for you. I was going to have fucking the best Russian food ever. Now, forget about it. But anyway, SK, beautiful.
And, and by the way, the list goes on and on.
And so let me explain for the people listening, too, when you get into a partnership like that, literally, Complex will handle the ads. And
not just the ads.
Okay.
We help them with audience development.
Yep.
We help them with the back end, technology, and really like the cross-pollination of everything as well. We put a lot of those guys on. I don't know if you remember what we used to do. We used to do when a big album would come out, we'd get everybody together, right? And we get reviews in one column. You'd get Hoff doing a review with SK or Nation, and we'd get Noah, and we'd get Vlad, and we get and be like, everybody break down like Watch the Throne, right? And so you get the whole New Music Cartel all together in one spot and get the best review across the board. And it was, we kind of just empowered a whole bunch of people and really put them on at a much higher level than they ever would be on their own.
Sure, and built the company up at the same time, because now you could go to advertisers and be like, look, we're the fucking representative of all these big fucking dogs. And, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's
and look, it didn't hurt that social networks came out, right? Social networks enabled the best vertical voices to take this amazing conversation that they were having and now speak to a whole bunch more people. And I didn't see that coming, but that happened. And, it's a testament to, if you choose to partner with the best content, not just the biggest, you will have the ability to grow it and scale it. But you can't take scale and turn it into great stuff. But what you can do is take great stuff and turn it into scale. And that's what we were able to do.
Words of wisdom. Later on you brought on in Nowhere. Was that one of your first big hires?
Noah, we brought on, we didn't bring Noah on as the lead at first. We brought Noah on as like a managing editor. And I believe it was, 05, 06. And then I gave him the job about 18 months, 2 years after that.
Why? Why did you do that?
Well, look, Noah's got a real unique perspective on things, right? You talk about a really intelligent guy that is able to not just come up with a very differentiated opinion on things, but his references, how, he understands everything about what's going on. His understanding of music and the way to break it down, and his knowledge, and also he's very careful about and very respectful of the culture that we're covering. And it's yet pushes it as well. And he's been tremendous. He's like my little brother.
He got in there with equity too, no?
Of course.
These fucking.
I made a
Where
lot
the
of
fuck
people a
was
lot
I?
of money.
Fuck, man.
It's what's the line? What's Jay's line? Is like, here's my booth. I got a whole bunch of I made a whole bunch of
He
millionaires.
said just made $1 million. Cam
Right.
made $1 million.
Right. Like, and
Just give me $1 million.
We look. I will tell you something. Somebody asked me, what I was most proud about, and I think a lot of people thought it was going to be, talking about Complex and how big it is and other things like that. The real answer, the thing that I'm most proud about, is there were a lot of people that stuck with me, believed in the vision, and we made a lot of people some significant money, life-changing money. That's going to enable them and their families to look at their lives differently.
Even look at somebody like, Joe LaPuma. I mean, when you seen him come
My
into
boy.
where he is today, you got to be proud of that, right?
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Dude, Joe was a fucking intern for
Yeah.
us. And, talk about, salt of the earth. As good as it gets. Like, I love him. And it is. It's you're proud, right? Like, it's an amazing thing. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with. And by the way, the list is way deeper than that.
Sure.
These are just some people that I tend disproportionately care
Shout
about.
some people that you think
Oh my
of.
God! I mean, my brother Mark Echo,
Yeah.
right? Moksha Fitzgibbons, by the way, who doesn't get talked about a lot.
Who's that?
He's a lead sales guy for me.
Still there
been
today.
With me, been with me for 15 and a half years. Edgar Hernandez, are right under Mock, leading sales, been with us for almost 10. Alexei Baksheva, like my crazy Russian CTO, the guy, my chief technology officer, nuts, by the way, great. All these guys, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 years, blood, sweat, tears, all together in this foxhole.
That you've been able to help even change their life. You know what's even.
Well, we did it together.
Well, of course, but I'm saying the vision and the dream that you had that turned into reality has been able to change their life. And you're right, they did put in their work, and so did you. But you know what? More importantly, this is the crazy thing for me. You're a good guy. Noah's a good guy. I see it all the time on social. Sometimes you invite a lot of people in the office to your homes.
That's right.
To enjoy, eat or relax or whatever it is.
Share.
How hard is that to fire somebody? And the reason why I say that is because...
First of all, I got news for you.
Yeah.
That's not what makes it hard. For me, I'm terrible at it to begin with, right? Like, it's funny. My expectations are through the roof, right? Like, what I expect out of anybody is super high. But, when someone fails, I blame myself first. Always. So it's very difficult for me. And letting people go is tough. But, in an entrepreneurial thing, you're going to fail a lot. And, usually when you have really good, talented people who can't figure it out and can't make it happen, we churned through some video directors that didn't work, leaders of video that just didn't work. We churned through some different people in some big spots. And
do you have to do the firing?
I've done some of it.
Is it the reason why I asked you that is my father later on in life, when he had probably his best job, he was a CFO and in a commodity firm, and he used to tell me that and my father was a tough guy. I mean, he wasn't a gangster guy, but he was a tough guy. And he told me that when
that's real tough, though.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
There is. And he would tell me, listen, Pete, when I had to fire someone, he said that he almost had to throw up. He says it bothered him. He said at night, because these are people that, and my father was the same way. Twice a year, he used to invite everyone to my mother's, to my house, and she used to cook for them. And
look, if I'm going to ask as much from somebody as I do, which is to go all in with me, and they do it, and they fail, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's a very difficult thing to do. Even worse, I'm sorry, I'm very old school in the way I am. Like, if I'm letting somebody go, I could be crushing their family.
Sure.
Like, I'm sorry, it's not a number. It's not binary. It's, caring is not weakness. Having empathy for people is not weakness. It's unfortunate and it has to happen, but you don't have to like it, and you don't have to be so cold about it either.
Sure. It's got to be tough, but you know what? I want to take a quick break. We're going to wind this episode down. Take a quick break. Listen, get yourself probably a note and a pad, because Rich is going to drop some gems. We're continuing to give people entrepreneur. We went through family, went through business, went through just the tale and the journey of Rich Antoniello, CEO, founder of Complex Networks. We'll be right back into this. Don't go nowhere. Cheers.
What's good, Internet? This is Hawaii Mike from Chef for Hire, and you are checking out the Premium Pete Show.
Internets, and we're back sitting here with Rich Antoniello, my friend, a friend of ours, a friend of mine, Listen, a lot of people have visions to live a lifestyle of what you have lived, As you get more successful, does the work get more easy?
No, it gets harder every year.
Okay.
Anybody who thinks it's like, it's I got news for you. If you attain a certain either wealth or position and you're done, then you probably shouldn't have got there. It's all about desire, ambition, bigger, faster, better, stronger, more. It just is. And you don't have to be ruthless about it, but you got to be tireless about it. And, it's hard. It's hard. Media is a tough business. It's 24/7. You're building your audience every day. Every day you start at zero, right? Nobody's logged on yet. Nobody's looked at your feed yet.
And also what you did today, what about tomorrow? So, for instance, Complex should have a great day today, but what about tomorrow? I always say that even in the podcast lane, people always look for, oh, okay, so everybody wants to say people get Jay-Z. Say a podcast gets Jay-Z, okay? Because, that's what they want. They could be a good get.
Of course.
What about next week? What about the week after?
Where do you go from there?
And
you set a new step, hopefully, a new bottom.
Sure.
Now you only go up from there. And, those are the winners. That's what's, not to make it super simple and corny, but, those are your people. Like, I got news for you. It's like, if you told me we were going to sell the magazine for $50 million when I started, I would have laughed at you. I'm like, oh, I'll take 20.
Yeah.
But we got to 20 million in revenue pretty quick, and I was like, well, let's go for this, right? Like, I mean, and you keep going. You just keep going.
What's the most you've been offered? Was it the 300?
Again, the number is different than you're quoting.
Okay, $299.
No,
all right.
No, whatever.
400.
Whatever.
Okay.
But.
People love numbers,
people love numbers. I mean, literally, I legally cannot
no problem.
comment on it.
On
its private company stuff and whatever. I can't.
Well,
I wish I could.
I think they said 300, but you're saying
the bottom line is, look, it's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And it's more than I ever thought we would exit for. But like I said, the important thing for me was not the cash out. It was the money that they were going to put and the belief in the strategy on a go-forward basis to continue to grow this brand into what it can and should be. It's the most important thing in the world for me. That's what it's all about. And I want to continue to put other people on, give people opportunities, change the way people look at media companies, change the way people look at staffing media companies, which is another thing. Like, in this day and age, we could be very choosy. We could, like I said before, just hire the right resume, the perfect person. Sure. And we don't do that. We hire the perfect person for us. We hire real talent, real vision, and sometimes that doesn't have the perfect resume. Didn't go to the perfect school.
You built in Complex, and I've been there so many times. I do a lot of things with Complex, but I
and we love you for that.
And likewise, but I've seen it grow so much, and you know what I really like about it? I feel like the positions that maybe can't move any more higher, those people give all they have, and then when they leave, it's like fucking almost like they're graduating college or high school, and they're saying like, look, right. Thank you for all these fucking years. Thank you to this guy. Thank you to this guy. Thank you to this guy. But I must leave now. and move on to do different things. I see it it's like here's the thing. Most people leave a job, they don't fucking put an Instagram post on how much they appreciate it.
That's right.
Or how much they're thankful. Think about that.
It happens a lot for us, though.
But,
I'll tell you.
How many employees are
there?
there?
Let me tell you a quick story.
Good.
We're 450 now. One of my former, we have a show called Everyday Struggle.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if
That's my next question.
Oh, it's so good.
I like the way
and
you're telling me like it's a piece of food. Like, have you ever had this prosciutto with mozzarella and tomato? It's so
we'll
good.
get into that too. But it's a great show, and we had 21 Savage on this morning.
Yeah.
It's amazing. My former assistant, this unbelievable girl named Key Henderson, is his manager.
Oh yeah.
Key is unbelievable.
Yeah,
by the way. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
And it's somebody who started out as my assistant, quickly fucking put it all out there every day. Moved into the marketing team, and has moved up and really built a tremendous career.
I think she's from Atlanta. I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, now she moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
To concentrate on this, and I will tell you, mission accomplished. It's like, and there's so many. I could. By the way, I could keep going on.
I know. We can't. We're gonna miss out some people if we try to mention everybody.
Yeah, you can't. I can't. But it's like that list is so long, and that list is another thing. Like that's what this is all about.
But
right?
let's get in. You mentioned Everyday Struggle, and you look at somebody. Complex gets 300 million page views a month. Say right.
1.7 billion.
Okay. Okay. You listen. You have corrected me so many times. You may be the only person that corrected me, but it's all facts. It's all facts.
All good. Yeah.
You look at it. As being the CEO of Complex, and knowing that, what made you pick Joe Budden to? Wait, hold on. I'm gonna tell you who openly admitted to sabotaging things when they're good. To run and head this flagship show.
Well, look. I mean, first of all, that's...
Wait, hold on. Before this becomes like a problem, if
no,
Joe,
it's not a problem at all.
Do you remember hearing him? Do you know that this when they say openly admits to sabotage things and when they go well? Have you ever heard this?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, no, I just don't want. I'm not. I'm just asking.
No. And I will tell you this. I would rather make some magic and start some conversations in the space and say things that so many people are afraid to, even for a shorter period, than never say them at all. And, look, I didn't cast Academics and Joe.
Which I think
no, it did.
Academics is a genius addition. And I'm going to tell you.
It's they're perfect foils.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the kid has an amazing platform, too.
Yes, he
by
does.
himself.
Yes, he does.
Okay? Hate him or love him. Hate him or love him. And I want to say that at least he has the best gif of the year. His facial remarks during that Migos shit
was the best.
Was hysterical. And
so many memes. So many memes.
So many. And but so you didn't cast. Go ahead. You said Noah.
Noah and Joe and those and
but
Jack
they come
and all
to
those
you.
guys.
They come to you.
Of course,
they come to you and they say this.
Oh yeah. I mean Cornell and Noah. Every show that here's who we're gonna cast. Here's what it's gonna look like. Here's what it's gonna feel like. You good with this? Like we're working together. It's an amazing thing. And look, we rolled the dice.
Yeah.
With Joe and Academics, right? And Nadeska in the middle of it is just makes it all right.
Sure.
Right.
She's a great. She's great.
It's not.
Yeah.
And what I'm really proud about our guys is most people would not have done that. They would not have put it all together. And
what do you mean by that?
I don't think most people, we love Joe, but not a lot of people do.
You think most people want to give him a chance or the platform to do this?
I think they would either be afraid, to your point, of working with him, or don't want to be associated with, he's a very opinionated guy.
Yeah, which makes for great content.
Oh, he's the best. And
I think it's crazy because as lyrical as Joe is, I think that people probably don't understand how talented he is media-wise.
People don't understand how smart he is. Look at the way he breaks down his arguments. Look how clinical he is about that. This isn't he's not Skip Bayless who's just screaming about shit, right? He's like, I'm going to say it loud. I'm going to get emotional, but he stays rational. Like he's breaking it down block by block, brick by brick.
Sure.
I don't always agree with him. I don't. But you know what? I can appreciate his opinion because you know where he stands and why he's standing there.
Yeah.
And look, that makes for great conversation.
You know, something I never asked you before was Verizon and Hearst come in. They give this money to, quote unquote, fund or buy Complex. Just say, because you say we sold. I've heard you say we sold Complex, right?
Right.
The craziest thing is, everyone's still there. Everyone's still
Well, they didn't want to change our business,
but that's great.
They wanted to grow our business.
But think about
that was
that.
what I was trying to say. It's not an exit; it's an entrance, right? Like we got to exit from a financial perspective for our investors, and we got to grow our business like we took on investment capital. So it's the best of both worlds.
So now, do you still So now you're based on a salary? Is everyone based on salary, or they still own?
No, you have, and again, there's only so much I can say. We are incentivized to continue to grow the business.
Okay, so certain people get incentives.
Yeah.
Now, you know what's crazy is that ever since that happened, there's so many things been greenlit, man. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah,
you know, it's like you guys are like kind of like doing more now, I think, than ever.
Infinitely more.
Yeah?
I mean, look, we went from. Last year, we were doing 5 or 6 semi-regular video shows a week. Semi-regular. We are on our way to programming just digitally. Forget about all the premium linear stuff we're doing. We'll have 40 weekly shows. We're programming ourselves like a linear cable channel. And most people... You know, we've created an unfair advantage versus a lot of other digital players. We are going to create not just better content, but a lot more of it than anybody else out there. And that's how we're going to dominate and start more conversations than other people, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You know, you've been quoted saying the key to success is focusing on the consumer and advertiser. Was that
at
something?
The same time.
Is that at the same time? Was that something you figured out early on?
Well, number one, I'm sorry. Let me be specific about that, and let me break that down. When you focus on the consumer, you're building your brand. When you focus on the advertiser and the revenue, you're building your business. What I really have said, and I've said to be even more specific, is we've been one of the few companies that have built a brand and a business at the same time. And I think that's one of the reasons why we had so much interest in our business and our brand. And if you're going to build something for the long haul also, it better be both. Some people have big audiences, but they can't make money on it. Some people make money, but it's an arbitrage play. They don't really have a foundational audience. They don't really mean anything to the end consumer. We have it all. And it hasn't come easy, but it requires discipline. It requires rigor. And you have to hold yourself accountable to not just make content that is going to be popular, but are you going to be able to integrate advertisers in? And you don't ever just want to do something for an advertiser and make shitty content. And, you know, we've been able to do both.
You ever feel like I told you so attitude to some of those people who doubted you in the beginning? Yeah.
Every day. Are you kidding me? My chips haven't gotten smaller. They've gotten bigger.
On your shoulder?
2 of them. Right? You know, it's bigger, better, faster. And now, you know, we finally have the stacks to go after people.
Sure.
You know, we were going into gunfights. You know, like a lot of the digital players had raised a lot more capital than we ever did. And we're going into gunfights with toothpicks, and we're winning. That's what we did.
So that's saying something.
And now, you know, we're coming in with like howitzers. It's fun.
Is money ever a deciding factor in your decision making?
I mean, that's a tough question.
It is tough.
Never the sole factor. But like I said before, you have to consider it. You have to consider revenue. You have to consider profitability. You have to consider the end result. Not for me personally, but from a business perspective. I don't think you ever make any decision in a vacuum based on one thing. And the more disciplined, let me say it even better. The more disciplined you are about balancing all like qualitative and quantitative at the same time, enables you later to then make qualitative decisions only because you have such a strong business that you're no longer beholden just to a P&L.
Sure.
Right? So discipline early allows you to be more aggressive later.
Just the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that you're dropping. And, who are some of the businessmen that you look up to, that you draw inspiration from?
I mean, look, my biggest hero is Jeff Bezos, right? Like, I think he is as good as it gets. People talk about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a great marketing CEO. I don't know if you know the story, but Steve Jobs lost his job as CEO of Apple,
and came back as
and he came back, right?
What's that called? Pixar.
Right.
Yeah.
But he made a big mistake and they fired him. Jeff Bezos is the complete CEO. He can do everything: market, audience, profitability, talk to the street. He I don't know if people forget this. Like, Amazon made this huge bet on a phone a long time ago, and it was a massive failure. And it was barely a blip because they had so many other things going. He hedged his bets, and he had multiple revenue streams, and he had cloud service, and he had, streaming, and he's got Prime, and he's got, he was the guy who stood up and told the street, he's sitting there quarterly, and everybody else is held accountable to top line revenue and bottom line EBITDA. And he's like, don't worry about EBITDA. And they're like, well, we hold everybody else accountable. He's like, yeah, well, don't worry about it. We're going to eat everybody. Don't worry about profitability right now. We'll be able to turn that on anytime we want. I'm oversimplifying it. But he's playing by a different set of rules because he doesn't allow himself not to.
Bro, Netflix still has their cloud service on Amazon.
Netflix is...
No, I'm just saying they have their cloud service on Amazon.
No, I know. No.
That's fucking crazy when you think about it.
It's amazing. I mean, people don't realize. Amazon is
Bro, that Prime is
animal.
fucking amazing. My lady got that Prime. Let me tell you something. We order things, it's at the door the next day. Free shipping, dude. It's crazy.
Amazing. It's amazing. And, he's trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
And it's admirable. And
you ever get a chance to meet him?
Not yet. That is definitely on the bucket list.
Gotta have him at Complex Con.
That is on that would be amazing. I'd kill to do a fireside with him. Kill. He is something special. Top of the list for me.
Okay, let's go to books. You read books?
I wish I had the time. I used to read a lot.
What are some of the books that you would recommend?
It's funny. I like fiction a lot, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not a big biography reader. I get inspired by other people, but I don't like to mirror anybody, right? The same way with the company, we didn't have a blueprint. I'm not trying to emulate anybody else in my life. I want to make my own road. So I don't like to read biographies. I'm a historian, but I don't look at it like, oh, well, he did this, so let me go do that. I don't like that. There's an author, I'll turn it into a quote for you, Pete.
Appreciate that.
There's an author, Canadian author named Douglas Copeland. He wrote and coined the term Gen X. There was a book. It's not one of his better books, but he wrote another book called Life After God, which is a commentary about Western society, slackers in Western society that no longer believe in organized religion, and we no longer have motivation by fear. It starts the societal breakdown. Right, it's a fascinating book. You don't have to read it at that level, but there's levels to it that you can go there. And there's a fantastic quote in there that is one of my favorite quotes of all time, and is "Fate is for losers. Destiny is what we work toward every day." And I read that, and I was like, "Boom!" I'm like, "That is fantastic."
Is there an album that changed your life that stays with you for a long time?
Oh man. I'm one of those guys who it's more of what was going on in my life that I think of a song or an album of great times and great situations. Joshua Tree for me. Mm-hmm. I know it's kind of funny, they just did the tour and everything like that. That was a very seminal moment in my life, a very seminal time, 87, 88.
Sure.
That was a big one. For me, it's kind of funny. I'm old school, right?
Sure.
A lot of when people ask me for my MC list and other things like that, I get into big arguments with people. I love the fact that finally people are starting to bring up Rakim again.
Sure.
A lot. And
you know what's sad though, and I don't even want to go fully into this. I speak about this all the time. Is that In this genre of hip hop, people when they get older, it's like get the fuck out of here. You're not relevant. Meanwhile, you'll get like Hall & Oates will be able to tour forever. Metallica will be able to tour
Rolling
forever.
Stones.
Rolling Stone. But here's the thing. Rakim was at Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival a couple weeks back. And the crazy thing is, I looked at the crowd. And it wasn't even that like I'm like, man, people should
Are
really.
you kidding me?
People really should be.
The master.
Yeah.
The
the guy,
master.
look, I don't know, man. I think we just need to respect our forefathers more. And at the same time, I know they need to respect the youth also.
Well, look, it's kind of funny. Jay's how old?
47.
Right. Wow. And, this album was interesting for me. I was just we just had Nigel Sylvester?
Of course.
Right?
Bike rider.
Fantastic
Professional
guy.
BMX, yeah.
I love him. He's in my office this morning. We were talking about stuff. And he's like, what do you think of Jay's new album, right? And I said, listen, you know what? I listened to it immediately. That was Thursday night at like midnight. And I was like, this is good. And then I went back and I listened to it, and it's good. But I didn't enjoy it the second time as much as I enjoyed it the first time. And I said, here's the flip of that. I loved Kendrick's album the first time. I went back and listened to it again, and I found 50 more things that I liked. And it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And look, different artists at different times in their life. But, this is not the blueprint.
Sure, and it won't be. It won't be. He's in a different time in his life. I'll be honest with you, I feel like it's Jay's most honest album. I really feel like there's things in there that he has spoke about that, in my point in life, I really appreciate him for it because I feel like he's at least dropping gems on some of the young kids. Because Jay has always talked about money.
Always.
Jay has always talked about flashing and flaunting, and as a Brooklyn kid, I fucking love it. But at the same time, I always talk about how some of the people I looked up to didn't always teach me how to build my credit.
That's right.
When I was growing up, they didn't teach me to do certain things. So in music, let me tell you something. My daughter's 17 years old. All she does is listen to music.
Oh yeah.
And I remember being young and listening to music. I remember breaking up with a girl listening to sad songs. I remember every music is a mood ring.
That's right.
And you hear Jay talking about build your credit or stop stunting in the neighborhood that your mother's renting. Wanting people to buy property, wanting people to, not saying it's easy, but at least giving some insight to the shit.
Yep.
You can only hear about cocaine and fucking,
No, and I love the maturity. I love the and first of all, honestly, also, as a lyricist, it's tough to touch.
That's 47.
It's amazing, right? But what's funny is, if you think about musically, the beats and everything like that, and believe me, I'm not calling it broccoli, but it's not the steak, right? There's no bangers. And I think it's kind of funny. I think he wrote this album is for him,
sure,
than it is for other people, and I admire him for being able to do that.
You ever met Jay?
Yeah.
What's your take on him?
I'm a huge fan of the man. You want to talk about somebody, we could talk about his music all day long, but let me say this. Somebody who came from what he came from, was on that road, and we talked about maximizing opportunities. Sure. I honestly don't know somebody who had to fight for everything they had, and then, talk about grabbing opportunities and strangling the life out of everything on a maximized basis. He's impressive. He is impressive, and always thinking bigger, thinking different. He's not running on anybody else's blueprint. He's making his own.
Sure.
And label head. Then I'm like, well, I'm gonna own companies. Now I'm gonna fund stuff, and he's not even close to done.
Yeah.
And that's
and
so
at
impressive.
47,
So
I
to
keep
me.
on saying that because keep in mind, 47 years old. I mean,
I just turned 46.
well, so congratulations, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yuck.
Yuck.
Yeah, you think about it, but pull another rapper out at 47, see if somebody cares that much. People, be 47, be a rapper, and still people that care about what the fuck you're doing. That's amazing.
Look, but Jay is so much more than that. I mean,
No,
that's
he's a
just
businessman,
it. I mean,
he's a mogul, he's an
he's
entrepreneur.
everything, and he made himself into that. I mean, look, you also have to say the same for Diddy.
Sure.
Right? Like,
Another inspiration. Have you had run-ins with him?
Oh, I mean, we've had plenty of meetings, right? Like, talked about a lot of different things. He is off the reservation. He is so impressive. I mean, he is the personification of drive. That's what he is. He's just like, it is just drive. He is energy, and it's amazing.
It's amazing to hear that because so many people say that, but then speaking to somebody who is talking about an interaction with him and then saying that, it just keeps on solidifying.
Oh, that's not an act.
Yeah,
that's
just an action.
That's just all on.
An action of how he is. Meaning, like, so many people say, "Oh, Diddy has a big drive," but nobody. Which it's just said in the air. You're talking about somebody who had a meeting with him and is still and done multiple things with him and is still saying that.
Oh, I mean, he's first of all arguably the best marketer I've ever seen in my life. Who else do you know? Who's the better salesman? He's the modern day P.T. Barnum. He's amazing.
That's classic. That's a great line.
That's what he is.
Yeah, that is classic. Who has been some of the craziest or I mean, look, Complex has definitely sat down with a lot of people. A lot of people come there through press runs and stuff.
You got to remember, I mean, Kanye used to be a columnist for us way back in the day.
Really?
He used to do Kanye's fashion beatdowns. We used to take red carpet photos, and this was like through the wire time frame, right? And he used to like criticize people's outfits and everything like that. It's funny. I mean, we've touched a lot of people at a lot of different times in their careers too, right? One of my favorite covers we ever had is we had the Beastie Boys all together in a golf cart with Kanye West. It's one of my favorite covers, and it's all pastels, and it's so fun. It was so ahead of our curve, right? And we've done some really fun stuff.
How'd that Jerry Seinfeld Wale happen? How'd you get Jerry?
You know the story, right? This is Joe LaPuma. Joe LaPuma deserves all the credit.
Well, he loves.
For this.
Seinfeld,
no, but you know the story, right? Like, we did a list. I think it was December. We were doing it was the end of the year, and we were doing our like top 50 albums of the year, and Wale was not on it, and he called up our music editor.
Okay, I remember
literally
that,
railed this guy Insulin. He just went in, and like, you better get security. I'm gonna come up there. I'm like, what are you, crazy? And we were like, listen, the conversation's been taped. Like, do you want to react to it and whatever? And look, this speaks volumes for Wale, right? He's all emotion, right? And by the way, infinitely more talented than his sales numbers are, right? Joe goes, what if we, and Wale had another album coming out with Seinfeld. He's like, what if we did a thing where, like, literally, it was really, Wale didn't think it was a big deal that he wasn't on the list, but Jerry basically prodded him into getting pissed off about it. Yeah. So we went back and, like, made a fake background about what it was, and Wale was like, I love the idea. And Seinfeld was, I love the idea. So he poked fun at himself, and we took a negative situation, and we turned it into this really cool, positive thing, and that was all Joe LaPuma's idea. It was amazing. Great cover, classic video. The video is great.
I like the behind-the-scenes stuff.
It was great.
All the clips of it. When you think about Complex and everything it's been able to accomplish, where do you see it in 5 to 10 years from now?
I mean, you know what? Look, I think there's a lot more for us to do on a lot more platforms. I mean, we build out this channel and then distribute ourselves everywhere. We branch out into a few other things. I mean, the big thing that I'd really like to change is I'd like to use this platform to change people's perceptions about this culture, really bring conversations to the table, not just individual attitudes and opinions. I'd like to change the landscape of the finger pointing and the very negative way people talk to one another nowadays. I don't think there's enough respect and empathy for different groups of people. And, you know, there's a new school entrepreneur going to the show, The Blueprint. There's new school conversations that need to be had.
Is there an ultimate goal? I mean, where you want to take this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you money goals. I could give you, it's more the impact and the influence. I want complex, like if anything that goes on in youth culture, I want people running to any platform to go, I got to find out what Complex is saying about this. That's my big goal. Like, I want to be the definitive voice that is out there across the board and on all topics that are related and not just the fun and the entertainment stuff, but everything that goes on. And, we're getting there slowly but surely.
It takes a lot of time. I mean, you look at it, that Migos thing with Joe, that was a piece that all outlets were covering,
Well, that's you just nailed it. There's a difference. A lot of people, like, I want to be the company that and the brand that makes the news, and then others report on us.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to just be the reactor.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's what a lot of people, if you're striving just to be the fastest person to respond to something, that's not what we're trying to do.
Before we end this episode, I do want to bring up the fact, we always talk about, being fathers. You have 2 kids, 2 girls.
2 beautiful girls.
And 2 beautiful girls. And, this is a great topic for me and you to talk about. You're successful. You made a lot of money. Most guys that I have seen made a lot of money or busy or CEOs, you go to, I go to my daughter's, I had her in soccer, I had her in ballerina. Fathers would come there, they're on the phone, they're busy, you got to close a deal. You never really have time, and that's why I always preach that presence over presence. Being in your kid's life, how hard is it to be successful, but also be present in your kid's life? Because you do that.
No, I mean, look, one of the reasons we chose to stay in the city is I didn't want to be a weekend dad, right? Like, when we had our second kid, it's when a lot of people move out because it's hard to get enough space in the city. Luckily, I've been lucky enough to be able to afford to be able to have enough space. But, by being on 57th and Sutton and being able to, like, my kids go to school on 2nd Avenue and 56th Street, I can be at work every day and be at everything that goes on in their school or afterwards, and I can just miss pieces of the day here and there. I say this. I was having this conversation with my wife, and we have a great relationship. It's very honest, right? And she paid me a very nice compliment on my birthday, and she goes, I've never had to tell you to be a better father. And it's one of those gut punches. Like, you're like, oh, that's awesome, right? And I go, and I said, listen, don't take this the wrong way, babe, but I got married to you, right? And my whole life was about myself, right, and my family, but myself at the top. And then you get married, and you have somebody who's just as important as you. Ideally, if you want to have a marriage that works, they're equal, right? Like, so now you were just as important to me. And then we had kids. And they went to the top of the list, and they go in front. And it's the first time in your life where people step over that. And to me, I became a better CEO. I became a better boss. I became a better husband when I no longer was putting myself as 1 or 1B, but somebody else was in front of that. And you organically become you put people in front of you, and it made me better. And it wasn't something that I had to think about. I'm not conscious about it. it's everything I do is for them, and it's and when I say that, it's not about giving them things. It's about giving them the experiences and the opportunities that I just didn't have. And I watch the joy that they have. Nothing makes me happier. It ain't going to be a watch. It's not going to be
Bottle of wine,
an award from media,
sure,
or anything like that. It's going to be them. I mean, when they smile and hug me and come running up to me, and or even crying and coming up to me for support or whatever the thing is, that's to me, that's the best thing that ever happens to me. It's just
it's special because when you, like I said, when you think about it, there's a lot of parents that are successful, and I'm speaking about successful parents, that just may be there for their kids, but not really there for their kids. You know what I mean? Because they're so busy.
Well, a lot of people look at kids as accessories,
yeah,
in this day and age, unfortunately. And if look, we made a tough choice when we had before a lot of the success. With my first kid, my older daughter is 9. My wife quit her job and became a stay-at-home mom, and she was making pretty good money, so we were giving up a lot, and we made that choice. But it was we just didn't want somebody else raising our kids. And
sure.
I'm not saying a lot of people don't have that
sure,
that opportunity,
sure.
but we made that. It wasn't because we had the opportunity to make that choice. If we didn't make that choice, we would have been selfish in my book.
Yeah.
And I give it up to my wife who put her career on pause for the most important things that we could do. And it's some. I mean, in this day and age, it's tough, right? You see a lot of people's lives. You reference social media, you reference Instagram and all this, and I know everybody talks about it all the time of like you just see the best of everybody's lives. It's life is tough,
sure.
man. And successful, not successful, money, no money.
Sure.
Everybody's got challenges. And you don't always know, but for me, it's the thing. Not to wrap it up and bring it back to Brooklyn, where it all started, is the thing that I loved about growing up where I grew up is, I remember my parents fighting about money, about certain things from Bill's perspective, but I never met a bunch of people that cared more for each other or had more fun
sure.
than that. A lot more fun than a lot of people I know that have a lot of money now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's funny is it all comes down to when you look across at your wife or you look across at your kids and you genuinely love and want to be there and spend time together. And unfortunately, I think in the city, there's an awful lot of people that just honestly, they do it because they feel like they have to. They don't do it because they really want to.
Yeah. No, kids change your life, man. I mean, I always speak about that. And, they've been, my kids have been the reason for me. I feel like they give you desire. It's funny because it's like when we talk about money, I was never a kid that grew up with money. Still to this day, I still, struggle to make it. But I'm happy. And I'm not happy with where, I want to be financially, but I'm happy with my family, my kids, and the moments that we get to share together. But, it's crazy because it's like, could I use more money? Absolutely. But
at what expense? At what expense?
True.
And that's the question you have to ask yourself.
True. But more importantly, what I do mean by that is that it's a beautiful thing to enjoy the presence of your kids and really be there for them, and be like, for instance, some of the stuff I do, I'm able to, go pick my daughter up from school. I'm able to, I have a lot more time to be able to do some of these things. Now, I may not make the most money from that, but I it's more like, I guess the point I'm making is,
where you place value
in
right?
relationship.
I mean, you place value. Like, it's funny, if and I'm glad I had my kids later in life. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't ready. I was a very immature 20 in my 20s.
Me too.
Like, exceptionally. And I will say this. My timing was very good in a lot of things, but if you would have told me that, I would have certain amounts of money, and asked me at 25 what I would do with it, I mean, I drive a Volvo SUV, and I have a nice little Jeep Wrangler out at my beach house. Like,
No,
you know what? I could do a lot. I could drive a lot of different things.
Sure.
I could, whatever. I love my cars. I love what they do for me. They get me around, and you know what? It's fun to drive, and they're great, and they're super safe, and whatever. And you know what? I'm good with that.
No, listen. I grew up with a lot of people that wore white T-shirts that had stains on them that were worth $10 million, and nobody believed that. They're like, "Look at this fucking guy got a stain on his T-shirt." I grew up with people like that, but it's a great question for as we end this episode. But being that you're not into flossy a Bentley or
I have my stuff that I like. I mean,
Okay.
I like my wine.
of
I like my
course watches, yeah.
And
But what is somebody who has money, like? What do you suggest that people put their money, like invest in or property, or is there anything?
I mean, look, for me, this is where I'm going to get all financy. I've saved money. I was lucky enough, like I told you, I got into sales very young, so I started making commission checks, and pretty big ones, pretty young. And I started putting that money away, and then I was able to be in a situation where I could start to buy real estate and other things like that much younger than other people. And money compounds, right? People talk about put money in 401ks, save as much as you can, and then it multiplies. And you know what? It's just math. It's true. You know what? An extra $5 here and there. It's funny. I'll tell a quick story. There was a kid that used to work for me when we were on 23rd Street, right? This was like 2005, 2006. And he's gone on and been very successful. But he was an intern who got a job for us, became a writer. And he had a personal relationship with me. And he decides to knock on my door, not go to his boss, and goes, "Rich, I need a raise." And I go, "Why do you need a raise?" Like, I'm thinking he's going to go, "Well, I'm the best writer. I got the most follower," or whatever, right? And I expected that. And he just goes, "Well, my life's expensive, man." And I'm like, by the way, I'm the wrong guy to say that to, right?
Fucking jumped over 3 people to get to you.
I'm like, okay, first of all, shut the F up for a second, and I'm going to talk to you I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. I go, I watch you, I pass you to go to lunch every day. And there's a place right outside of right downstairs called Manja.
Yeah,
and
I remember
Manja's
that,
like, dude, it's like $30 for lunch. And, I was making good money. But I would walk past Manja around to this crappy deli and get a $6 turkey sandwich in a brown bag and come back and drink water. And I go to this kid, I go, "You got to be kidding me. I spend infinitely less every single day. I could buy you 50 times over." And I'm like, and I live in the same city and everything like that. I'm like, you realize how wrong you're living your life? Like, and also, like, so that's just one thing. But when somebody asks you why you deserve a raise, you don't come back with whiny excuses. Give me value. Show me what value is. That's how you're going to be judged. That's how you're going to make money. And, it's funny. You talked about, I'm glad, it's funny. The kid, he took it all the wrong way, got all emotional. Next day comes back. He goes, "You know what? Thank you. My dad nobody ever said that to me before. Nobody ever told me I was wrong. Like, nobody ever told me how to think about it that way." And, he's like, "Thank you." And, and literally, first of all, the kid's gone on to become very successful.
Did he make it in Complex, or did he get in trouble?
No,
he
did very, very well.
No, I'm saying, did he get in trouble for jumping chain of command time?
Nah, I mean, we were small. We were
Okay.
like 100 people at the time.
Okay.
And, I try and have as many personal relationships with everybody on the staff as I still can. I'm not a big hierarchy guy. Like, I think everybody should be able to talk to everybody about everything, because, you shouldn't have to go to your boss and make it a political thing. Like, if you have an opinion, you got an idea, you got a gripe, you got whatever, everybody should be able to address them. Nobody's bigger than this company.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. The journey has been amazing, and it goes back to saying that.
And it's not done.
No, it's not done, and it goes back to saying that a lot of the jewels that you spoke of go back to father and son, or just being around people who inspire you, taking a chance on you, and learning, and that's one of the reasons I want to sit down with you. More importantly, and I'm glad it finally happened, was because your journey has just been inspiring, man. And
Well, thank you.
And just I wanted the audience to hear, through the mind and the heart, because you're all heart. And I'm not saying this because you're not here. You're all heart. And I think it takes somebody passionate enough and crazy enough to turn Complex into this hundreds, multi, can we say $500,000 company? I don't know what the numbers are.
How about on the way to $1 billion?
Okay, on the way to $1 billion.
Better. I like
and
that.
then I can only imagine the conversation you're going to have with your wife, once she has the $1 billion. Jimmy Choo shoes all over. But
not that fancy. That's what I like.
That's all right. It's a good thing to have that. But, it's just like I said, it's special to have that type of conversation. I'm glad, and I know the audience will love it because
I'm going to say one thing too. I just, I want to say thank you, and I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get here. Pete, there's a lot of people that are trying to have conversations out there, and there's not many people that are just, stripped down and is raw and is real. And I want to say thank you, not only for having me on, but thank you for being who you are. And I hope your listeners realize how lucky they are to have you. So I just want to say thank you.
No, I thank you, and I thank you for, like I said, finally, us trying to make this happen. And I think I want to give this tip to the listeners too, that Rich is a busy guy. I'm a busy guy, but you're a busy guy, and I think I always say don't take nothing personal. And there's times where I could have been like, forget it, man. He's too busy.
I'm surprised you didn't.
But I know, but I kept on, hitting you up because I feel like, to be honest with you, and I said it before a little bit just now, but I want to say it even more. I didn't learn how to be, creative successfully until later on in my life because I hung around with a lot of kids that didn't give a fuck about anything like that. And to surround yourself with people and to hear those gems and to listen to those gems, help other people. Like, that's a crazy thing. People listen to a journey of Rich Antoniello, but at the same time, gain insight for themselves.
I hope so.
No, I'm saying.
I mean, look, I got news for you. If I could do it, anybody can do it, right?
Shit.
And the one thing that I'll leave it at this because it's an important one. And I didn't understand this for a long time because I felt like an outsider, right? Because I didn't I went to a state school. I didn't go all the right places. I don't have the right pedigree. My dad didn't play golf with the right guy. But what's interesting is there's a facade. Don't be intimidated by anybody because they went to the right school or that they're saying the right thing or they use the right jargon in the right way. I got news for you. Reduce everything down empirically to what is simple and what is right and have vision and be aggressive. And I got news for you. You're going to beat those guys every day and twice on Sunday. Every time.
Hey, we're going to leave it like that. Listen, social media, you're on Instagram and Twitter. What is it? Rich Antoniello, right?
It's, what am I? What is it?
Is it Rich Antoniello?
My Twitter. Twitter is Rich Antoniello, and Instagram is Rich A Complex,
okay.
Right?
Yeah. Listen, hit Rich up. Don't hit him for a fucking job. Hit him.
Please don't.
Don't.
Please don't.
Don't hit him for a job. Hit him and thank him for the gems. Maybe even hit him on Twitter for a fucking entrepreneurial advice. But or a wine suggestion, or
a recipe.
Don't hit him for a fucking job. We are going to do that. Hey, listen, with all these shows going on, there's got to be something for me over there.
Oh, I think we should have some fun.
We got to have something with the old Brooklyn, man. But anyway, listen, Rich, I appreciate you. I said it 1,000,000 times. I'm going to say it again. I really appreciate your journey, the way you are with your kids. It's inspiring, and I thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, sir.
Internet's Rich Antoniello. See you next episode. Cheers.